What is up, people of Westeros? Welcome to my House of the Dragon, episode 6, titled The Princess and the Queen, episode breakdown, recap and review. And I don't know if to anyone else, this kind of felt like another pilot in a way. Now that we've jumped forward 10 years with new actors as well, I mean, it's familiar, but also it felt like a new beginning. And that's because quite a bit of circumstances have changed between the relationships of characters. The kind of climate of the politics and everything has escalated even more. It's kind of been brewing, especially with the way things ended in episode 5 with Lady Alicent really just like, I'm not taking any shit anymore. And Rhaenyra more or less just doing what she wanted to do this whole time. Let's go through the events of the episode and get some theory crafting going. So this picked up with Rhaenyra giving birth to yet another baby. That's another thing about all of this. We're kind of heading towards the dance of dragons, if you will, and not to get into spoilers, don't worry. I only ever kind of allude to things here. I'm not going to get all out in terms of the loose things that we do know from the canon. But this story, especially as they get into in the behind the scenes, is about the children now. I mean, obviously you've got Rhaenyra, Lady Alicent, the Queen, should I say. We've still got Viserys kicking around, and even though he looks a bit more like Smeagol, kind of like transitioning to Gollum in Lord of the Rings, he kind of seemed a bit more healthier to me this episode than last episode. Even though there is drama there, it's now being carried on to their children and the impending major drama to come. So we've got Aegon, Aemond, and Aegon, also David Tennant's son. I don't know how many of you know that. Rhaenyra's eldest and heir when she takes over the Iron Throne, and that is Viserys, even though, of course, Queen Alicent and Otto Hightower, who will be coming back, and we'll dive into the promo a little bit towards the end of this episode, wants Aegon to take over. And then we have little Luke. I'm rallying for him because that is my name, but I'm probably forgetting someone else. But yeah, that you may have noticed a little bit of a difference there between some of the kids, and that is the hair color. And that is, of course, because most of the kids of Rhaenyra, I think, in fact, all of them, are the sons of the commander of the city guard, or city watch, if you will, and that is Harwin. And he is the son, one of the sons of the Hand of the King, Lord Lionel Strong, and his other son, Larys Strong, well, he is the new Littlefinger, I guess you could say. He caused quite a bit of trouble this episode. But another thing is, I just want to compliment the casting. This is a bit more of like a overall vague review, I feel. I'm just kind of jumping around the place. But I really do feel like they've done ever so well here. For example, I think the best casting in terms of likeness is Olivia Cooke. I've watched her for quite a long time now. I think she was absolutely fantastic in Bates Motel. If you haven't seen Bates Motel, go watch it. She's brilliant in that. Then she was in Ready Player One, so even in the trailers when I saw her in it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm excited for that. But she really looks like the younger Alicent. Then, of course, we have the older version of Rhaenyra, played by Emma Darcy. Now, I haven't seen her in much, but I really liked her in this. I don't think she has as good of a likeness as, for example, Olivia Cooke does to the younger Alicent. I would say that it looks more like if they cast Rhaenyra in the first place as her, because she looks like her mother from episode 1, Aemma, who died during childbirth. For example, in that opening shot, it really looked like a spitting image of her mother. But enough gushing over the actors here. I think they're great in this first episode. And obviously, recasting in the middle of the season, doing a second pilot, of which I believe even the showrunners referred to this as in the behind the scenes. It was kind of a risky move. You have such fantastic cast in those first 5 episodes of Rhaenyra and Alicent, but I feel like they did a good job here. This is where already, right from the get-go, once Rhaenyra has given birth, we have the Queen, Alicent, already requesting the baby. Like, it's just like, as soon as she's given birth, she requests the kid right away, and it's just like no breaks. And that's why Rhaenyra was so hard pressed to be like, okay, if she wants to see the kid, I'm coming. I'm gonna make sure that she sees how ridiculous of a claim this is. If she wants that, well, I'm gonna drag myself there and just show her how stupid this is. And we know the reason behind that is ultimately because she's like, right, it's time to check the baby's hair color. And yet again, it wasn't the Targaryen silver hair. We do have King Viserys basically saying nature is, like a strange thing. He talked about about the analogy with the horse, a silver stallion, and I believe like a black horse had like a chestnut foal. So it might not be that Rhaenyra isn't having kids with her husband, the sea snake's son, we can't forget, Lord Laena. I keep forgetting. Laena is Daemon's wife now, and Laenor is the son. But he knows. We know that he knows. He is just like expunging that from his brain. But this is constantly, in a very Game of Thrones fashion, adding more and more tension the whole time. Alicent has already been boiling like a kettle, simmering for 10 years. 10 years, and now things have clearly got to the next stage of evolution where we pick up in the story where things are about to blow. And we see that Queen Alicent has become a lot more emboldened over the next 10 years as queen. She doesn't really dance around the king anymore. For example, when later on Rhaenyra proposes to betroth her eldest Viserys to Queen Alicent's only daughter, she is completely against that. Viserys is like, oh, this is great. What a brilliant suggestion, or whatever he said. And she's like, yeah, over my cold dead body, and walks away. Despite the end of the episode with Rhaenyra and Laena going to Dragonstone, saying they should have gone years ago, the only reason she has stayed so long is because, as Laena said to her, you said if you were to ever kind of leave your post and, let's say, go to Dragonstone, that she would pour her honey into your father's ears, basically turn her dad against her, finally maybe get Viserys to come round to fully believing what he really knows deep down, that Rhaenyra has this arrangement to be with other people. Same with Laena, with freaking Carl this episode. Rhaenyra's actually with Harwin, and the thing is, people within the palace in King's Landing basically know this already. It's getting out there more and more. Sure, if you're out of the inner circle and even outside of that other circle, if you're just outside that bit, it's probably, whispers around the castle. The maids probably think, I don't know if I believe that, but, it's just a little bit of a rumor. But it's still very bad to have this attention, which is why there's such, honor disgrace between Harwin's father, Lionel Strong, and his son, because they have that argument later on in the episode after he obviously went ham against Criston Cole when he taunted him. But it's another thing that he's already been burying. In that dialogue, he says, you don't think I've known for the past freaking 10 years? Now, as everyone kind of pays attention to this episode, through the commander of the City Watch, Harwin, beating the living crap out of Criston after he says that you would only care about these kids like this if you were like a cousin, a brother, or a father, or they're like a son to you. He more or less essentially admitted it in front of everyone who was watching. It obviously doesn't outright confirm it, but with the heavy pressure of rumors already circulating around, it just doesn't look great. And the Hand of the King is right. Lionel does say that the only thin shield that you have, granted that it's the King's shield, is the blindness of King Viserys. He knows deep down, but King Viserys is clearly on his deathbed. He's not got too long. I'm surprised he made it this long. But after that, that's where civil war could break out. Rhaenyra should obviously ascend the Iron Throne if Viserys was to die, but would those proceedings really take place as smoothly? If they didn't, then that means Harwin's in danger, everyone's in danger, Laenor is in danger, Rhaenyra, it's like fireworks taking off at that point. Now up next, this is when we get properly introduced to the Targaryen children. They're taken to the Dragon Pit, and this was quite cool because at the end of the day, it's quite cool to get context that Targaryens do need some training to master their dragon. Once you have kind of crafted that bond fully, they will refuse to take orders from anyone else. But then we have a little bit of a game played on Aemond, which I felt bad about, which shows you a little bit of the nature of Aegon. And to be honest, with everyone anticipating Aegon this episode, I thought he would be a lot worse than what we got. Everyone was thinking he's going to be the next Joffrey, and he might be, but he wasn't as bad as what I expected. He's still a kid, but at the same time, the Joffrey streaks are definitely there when they were training in the courtyard, and I felt really bad because obviously with Harwin being the father of Rhaenyra's children and the way Criston Cole was treating them versus, for example, Aegon, and allowing him to batter Viserys. In moments like that, he was like, you! It's like, how dare you touch it? It's just very entitled, kingly, spoiled brat Joffrey vibes there in those moments, and it just makes you think, God, what are things going to be like when Aegon, as kind of the seed is planted in this episode with his mother screaming at him, one day you will be king, after catching him doing something which I can't get into because of monetization, nor do I even want to get into. But if that idea sits in his head beyond what he originally said, because he did say, well, then I won't challenge it. He didn't really seem to have much of an interest in being king. But either way, as the years unfold, obviously, I think you will get a bit of a taste for that. And yeah, like imagine what this guy will be like when he has a bit of a thirst for the Iron Throne. We also have Aemond going down into the dragon pit. I can't really tell what dragon that was that let out that flame, but as Alicent says, he's got a bit of an obsession with dragons, and I kind of felt bad for him. And I believe it's due to him not bonding with a dragon egg in his cradle, because that's usually how it goes with Targaryens. A dragon egg is there, it hopefully hatches, then you're a bit bonded with it. Without getting into spoilers, I mean, and evidently, as this episode is teasing, well, he's not got to stop there, and there definitely is quite a bit of a future there for Aemond with dragons, or a dragon, shall we say. And as for Criston, man, I really like this guy, but then he just blew it. Looks like he was pardoned for killing Laena's lover at the time, and as the behind the scenes say, he's found his new muse in the Queen, and he's now a part of the Kingsguard. And since he's a part of the Kingsguard now as well, I feel like he must feel like he's got his honor back. Like if Rhaenyra couldn't give it back to him through his marriage proposal and running away, well, what is a higher endorsement than the current Queen giving you a place in the King's Guard? And he's now the escort to that family, just like he once was with the princess. Now, when we pick up with Daemon, this was kind of interesting because Daemon has removed himself from Westerosi politics, and I can't wait to get a bit more into this because it didn't dive into it so much. Obviously, we had Laena, who I think she's just so nice, and it's such a shame what happened to her, but it was awesome seeing her ride Vhagar, which is insane. If you remember, we had early references to Vhagar, and she was even talking to King Viserys when, you know, there was a bit of talk about that marriage proposal between them when she was like, what, 10 years old at the time, and Vhagar was spotted on the coast, but she clearly is now Vhagar's rider, so she made that bond with Vhagar in the 10 years since, and they were riding together. But Daemon is somewhat of an unexpected move because with the way he is, I guess he's somewhat removed himself from the politics and all the throne succession BS and whatnot, as he puts it in this episode, because I think when he's involved in that, he knows that it's a bit of his own poison. When he gets involved in that game, he knows it's not only to his detriment, but to other people's detriment. But at the same time, he clearly misses it. As Laena says, she must miss his brother, as she misses her brother, Laenor. The people of Pentos, they want to use him since they have dragons, and he's like, well, it's fine here. It's basically like a holiday home permanently, but he spends all of his time reading about the old dragon lords. He doesn't sleep. Clearly, he's pretending to be like, yeah, you know, I'm on holiday for like years and years and years, but I'm actually kind of bored. And it was so tragic what happened because obviously Laena was pregnant. She was giving birth towards the end of the episode. And interestingly, Daemon is presented the same proposal as what his brother Viserys was with Aemma in episode 1. You know, you can save the baby, but that procedure would obviously kill the mother. I feel like it wasn't definitive what choice he was going to make, or was it? Because with what Laena went out to do, dragging herself to Vhagar, requesting Vhagar to set her on fire, does that mean that she thought Daemon was going to do the same thing that his brother did? Because he made a joke of that in a way. I would like to think that Daemon didn't want to make a decision like Viserys did, but at the same time, with the way they proposed that in episode 1, if you don't do this, then you're just going to lose the mother and the child, which is why I suppose the way we can perceive this is that no matter what, the way Laena was looking at it is like, well, I don't want Daemon to make this decision. I don't want to be cut open. I don't want to lose the child and just go through that myself. I want to die a dragon rider's death. So she literally crawled her way out there to Vhagar. This was quite heartbreaking. Vhagar's such a big dragon, and she was commanding over and over and over again to basically kill her master, her dragon master, her rider. And that was sad because clearly Vhagar didn't really want to, but then repeated commands just like, fine. And so just as Daemon got outside, he saw his wife and unborn child get burnt to a crisp. Again, I think Vhagar looks freaking awesome. Vhagar is a very, very, very old dragon, going all the way back to riding in Aegon's conquest of Westeros. So it is, you know, to hear those tales of Vhagar flying around the coast earlier on in the season to now actually being present and huge in episode 6 is awesome. And let's just say that this isn't the end we will see of Vhagar. But what this plot point does bring forward is that, well, Daemon doesn't really, it's like, now my wife's dead and I've got these kids. It will bring him back to clearly Rhaenyra or maybe King's Landing in the meantime, see his brother, and maybe he's going to hear that Rhaenyra went back to Dragonstone, and things will pick up from there. But now towards the end of the episode, the last major events involve what transpired between Criston Cole, Sir Harwin, his father, Lyonel Strong, the Hand of the King, going to the king to resign his post as Hand of the King. He says there is a big shadow over his house. Didn't really want to get into the true details. What he did mention is, my son disgraced us through doing what he did. The king's just like, well, he's been removed as commander of the city watch and stuff. It's like, yeah, but trust me that there's more. But it's like, well, say it. It's like, I can't. But what I will do is take my son back to the seat of our house so we can take over there. And that seemed to be like, okay. The queen was kind of pissed because I think she wants Rhaenyra to kind of be held responsible and Harwin to not get away so easy. Because obviously with him out the way, it means that maybe the rumors could die down a little bit. And so this is where the Queen Alicent fills in Lyonel Strong's other son. And this guy's been shady ever since we saw him last episode. Lord Larys. And as I said, the Littlefinger of the show, clearly a bit of a shady guy. He even says, like in one of his first words to her this episode, it's been my duty to tell you about the happenings of the castle, but tonight you know and I do not. So she fills him in. They talk about the willful blindness of King Viserys to Rhaenyra's transgressions. And as they say in the behind the scenes of this episode, and it was put very well, of course, because they're the showrunners, by them, by saying, when she says, I wish my father was here, because obviously Otto Hightower was once Hand of the King, and now Larys Strong is saying, well, my father clearly can't give an unbiased counsel to the king with all that's playing on his mind with Harwin. Well, with Lady Alicent saying, well, Otto was great, my dad was great, wish he was back, Larys hears, well, I'm going to go out and kill my father and brother so that the king doesn't have a hand, and so Alicent can bring her father back. And that's exactly what happens. So he goes down to the dungeons. There's a bunch of people who've committed crimes. But it's like, I can offer you mercy if you kind of do something for me. Now, this does require for them to lose their tongues because what they're doing is literally the shadiest of shadiest on the shadiest level. And that is killing the Hand of the King, killing his father and his brother on behalf of the Queen, even though Alicent didn't want this, nor instructed him to it. But the thing is, in the conclusion of all of this, she's complicit because she's not going to be telling her husband, the king, saying, hey, by the way, I know who killed the Hand. I'm going to now let my dad. She is a bit shaken by it, obviously, but we do see a little bit of a darker well to Alicent in this moment, despite the shock. And despite her not instructing Larys Strong to do this to his father and his brother, she's still gonna let it slide because it's still an advantage to further Aegon to the throne, get her father Otto Hightower back as the Hand of the King, and maybe finally expose Rhaenyra for essentially just everything that she absolutely disapproves of. It's just another sad thing because Harwin just seemed like a really honorable, nice guy. I mean, of course, he was doing something with Rhaenyra that shouldn't really be doing. Even though Laenor is fine with it, this arrangement is still, especially if you're a royal and everything like that, it's not the way things usually go. But he seemed like a nice guy, really cared about his kids. We see that Viserys by the end clearly picks up that he is his father. He's like, am I a bastard? But in another way of looking at it, Daemon and Rhaenyra both lost someone to fire this episode, which, could ultimately bring them back together in a bit of a weird way. And so that more or less marks up all the events of this episode. I have to say, this was probably one of my favorite episodes so far. And, that's not dragging down any of the other episodes. It just felt like they pulled off a second pilot really, really well. And it really, as we kind of spoke about a little while back now, has set that momentum. And the momentum will be rolling even more now for those of you who may be feeling as if, sure, we get something every now and again, but the pacing might need to pick up. Well, now things are, 10 years into the future. The tensions are even higher. The children are now involved. And especially if you know a little bit about the future of the source material, things are going to get pretty mad. So definitely looking forward to that. So I would love to know what you thought of this episode. What did you think of the new cast members for Rhaenyra, Alicent, some of the other characters? What do you think's going to go on with Larys Strong? Do you think he is also the Littlefinger of the show? Now, for those of you who don't want to know about the promo, I'm not going to get into it mega deep. It's just like a little bit of a highlight for what's ahead. Maybe you want to go away now, but let me know your thoughts either way down in the comments. but the promo definitely does show some of that tension in the future. We know that Otto is back. It looks like he will be given the Hand of the King position again from Viserys. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but either way, considering that Lionel Strong, the Hand of the King, is now dead, well, who's better to serve Viserys? 10 years later, maybe he's kind of thinking, look, I kind of find you, but I'm kind of over that now, so do you want to come back and be my hand? You're also my wife's father, so... But obviously, maybe he hasn't got it so into his head anymore about what he was annoyed about 10 years ago with his plan. Remember how Viserys knew that Otto would love for Aegon to be on the throne, and they've set those seeds up this episode very much so. We also have word that someone has stolen Vhagar. Now I wonder who that could be, and let me know if you know down in the comments. Some of us probably already do know, but it's going to be interesting to see what some of you say. And this bit's really cool because I've seen this in some of the other trailers, and it looks like the Queen Alicent gets the dagger with the Song of Ice and Fire inscribed into it and tries to stab Rhaenyra with it, but it looks like Rhaenyra manages to block the blade, and she says in this promo, "Now they see you as you are." Now, I don't know what drives Alicent to do this at this point. I mean, it's pretty crazy to attempt to kill the king's daughter, the heir to the Iron Throne. I mean, has Viserys died at this point? I don't know. Does she feel like she can do that? Is this where the civil war is starting to already break out? I'm not sure, but the fact that Rhaenyra flexes now, everyone who's watching around this, they will see you as you are. And what Rhaenyra really means by that is clearly she is saying, I know you don't want me to take over the Iron Throne. I know you want Aegon to take over. I know you don't approve of my children, because to be fair, I've been doing some shady stuff, but why do you care so much? But either way, you just tried to stab me with that blade. Everyone's going to see you as you are, and that is quite a mad act. Now, if Viserys is still around, even though she's the queen, what are the repercussions for that going to be? An attempted murder of the heir to the Iron Throne, Rhaenyra. So let me know your ideas down in the comments below. It's going to be a spicy episode. But that just about wraps up this video, guys. So it was fun getting back into the House of the Dragon talk. I do apologize for missing the previous breakdown, but we're back to business as usual on this channel now. As always, would really appreciate a like on this video, as it helps boost me out there in the Thrones algorithm, of which I don't have a massive audience for. So any help getting some new viewers in would be greatly appreciated. Of course, if you are a new viewer, do consider subscribing to the channel for more news, reviews just like this, breakdowns and whatnot in many different realms of the pop culture world. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow people of Westeros in the next video. Goodbye.